We have some big news to go over today. Omar has made a couple of sneaky good signings, including one move in particular that is very intriguing. But not only that, we have some huge coaching updates surrounding both Chris Shula, their pursuit of him, and Brian Flores as well, in what has been a crazy day of reports surrounding Mike McCarthy. Now, some brand new signings and more. You're going to want to stay tuned to the very end of the video. But not only that, we have a now former Steelers coach officially departing and leaving the team after over a decade with them. You're going to want to stay tuned to the end of this video. Before we get into it, quick thank you for all your guys' support. You guys have been unbelievable. Absolute beasts of support. But let's dive right into it. We have a lot of news to go over today. Now, let's start with the signings as we always do. Now, stay tuned for a couple of different things here, because you can see here the Steelers have signed defensive back DK Metcalf and offensive lineman Lorenzo Thompson to a reserve/future contract. The team has now signed a total of 19 players to the reserve/future contracts. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, okay, this is interesting, some more depth. There's one player out of these two in particular that I'm very interested in, and I'm going to dive into why these signings are a little bit more impactful than a lot of fans realize. So stay tuned for that. But before we get into it, a very quick reminder that this video is brought to you by Gosse, and if you download it using the link below and enter code DIGESTNFL, you'll get $20 when you trade your first 100. Gosse is the largest prediction market in the United States, and on their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, sports, elections, news, and pretty much everything, ladies and gentlemen. And whether you're in California, Texas, or anywhere else across the country, Gosse is live in all 50 states. And for us sports fans out there, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. And speaking of that regulated market, you can trade right now on who you think the next head coach for the Steelers is going to be. And if you trade yes on Chris Shula, and he ultimately ends up being the Steelers' next head coach, you'll win $244. So make sure to check out the link down below and use code DIGESTNFL to get your $20 bonus. And thank you once again to Gosse for sponsoring this video. Folks, let's get right back into it. We'll be diving into some interesting notes surrounding the Steelers' next head coach in a minute here, and include some Mike McCarthy updates. But let's start with DK Metcalf. Now, see here, he originally signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars as an undrafted free agent following the 2025 draft. And in college, he started 13 games, had some really good tackles, and he's actually quite the interesting player, because these are the types of moves that Omar has to make to build from the ground up. And of course, the big moves like last offseason trading Minkah Fitzpatrick started for Jalen Ramsey, and of course, Jonnu Smith. Those are the ones that make headlines. And whether that was a good or bad deal, I'll leave my opinion on that for now. But these little signings are the deals that actually matter going forward. And you can see here, he began his college career at Tennessee, played 4 seasons, and finished with 3 sacks, 1 pick, and 8 passes defended. And in 5 college seasons, he started 28 games. So clearly this is a guy that they have kind of on their radar a little bit here, and especially with injuries to the team's defense and a lot of injuries across the NFL. Nothing wrong with signing some more depth. And I think most fans would be pretty, not necessarily you don't want to be excited about it, but understand that these are the types of moves that build the ground up, provide depth, provide practice squad, competition, provide training camp competition. And they also went ahead and signed DK Metcalf, also signed Lorenzo Thompson. And you can see here that Thompson originally signed with the Browns as an undrafted free agent following the 2024 draft, and he spent time in their practice squad in 2024. And in college, he played 46 games, but he finished his college career with 37 consecutive starts and was a team captain in 2023. So this is a guy I actually find quite interesting, because we've seen now, he's an offensive lineman. We've seen with O-linemen this year, the Steelers had a ton of injuries. I always bring this up. Dylan Cook came up and he ultimately surprised everybody and went from a practice squad player to a starter and started a playoff game, right? Offensive linemen like this, guys who went undrafted, but guys who have a ton of experience in college, these things matter. And even just having depth at the the offensive lineman position, it's going to pay big dividends for their future head coach. And shout out to Gosse again for sponsoring this one. And you look at Gosse, their future head coach is going to have to figure out the offense. Going to have to figure out a ton of things. I'm not saying that, at this point, moves like this are going to be, signing a guy like Lorenzo Thompson is going to change everything, but it's very, very important. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. Have you heard of any of these guys? Do any of them kind of strike your mind? I'm excited to see the offensive lineman and see what he can do. Finishing college with 37 consecutive starts is no small feat. That is very impressive. And I think having him as depth, and even just having, DK Metcalf, that'll be important for competition. It'll be important for, of course, signing future players as well, because you're going to need even more depth, and it's not going to stop here. But let me know down below what your thoughts are on this, folks. It's continuing. More moves are continuing to happen, and ultimately, you love to see it. Now, also keep in mind, zero risk, super high reward for this. And by I say super high reward, I mean like the best outcome here would be one of these guys, starting a handful of games. That is the pretty high reward here. Getting someone for, nothing and then turning him into a decent starter. The risk is nothing. I guess not a super high reward, but the reward is much higher than the risk is, which is basically zero outside of you could assign somebody else against one of these, contracts. So let me know down below what your thoughts are, but let's also pivot. Now, I had a video earlier today on the Mike McCarthy situation, how Steelers are supposedly pretty deep in on the Mike McCarthy talks. There's been some rumblings about him actually signing a contract with the Steelers. You look at the updated odds here, and these were from yesterday where Crucial was minus 200. If you saw my video earlier today, it's actually changed. McCarthy is now a plus 125. But I say all this to ultimately provide you this information here. As of 42 minutes ago, the Steelers have officially completed their in-person interview with the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores for their head coaching position. The Steelers' first in-person interview is done. 2 more coming up this week with Mike McCarthy and Anthony Weaver, and there will be likely more coming too. So this is a process that's not going to be, short because, we think about it. They hopefully are going to interview Chris Shula at an in-person interview. That can happen, at least for now, probably until, at least the decision can't be made until the Rams get eliminated. But it's starting with Brian Flores, who probably my third option. I don't hate him. It'd be a fine hire, I think. I don't know if I love it, but it'd be a fine hire. Defensive-minded coach. Would he bring back some, Mike Tomlin stuff? Sure. Mike McCarthy, if you saw my video today, I don't want that to happen under any circumstance, really. Though he is going to be the next person who is interviewed for the head coaching position. And then Anthony Weaver, who I also am not super high on right now. And again, you look kind of the odds here for on Kalshi. Mike McCarthy's at 25, Flores at 25. Chris Shula still remains the number one, 40% chance, right? The number one chance, the number one odds for the next head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you can see kind of the chart there. It's going up and down. And Mike McCarthy had a pretty big spike here earlier today. So it is good to see them interviewing guys like this. Ultimately, it's going to be a long process. This isn't going to be like the Titans where they went out and they recently, hired their head coach. It's going to take some time. And of course, the Titans got Robert Saleh. The Steelers had some interest, but never really pursued it beyond that. So ultimately here, we've heard the stuff about Mike McCarthy. Connor Hughes reporting that he might actually land with the Steelers. You can see here from Jack Sperry, if Pittsburgh's plan is to cater to Aaron Rodgers in order for him to agree to come back, McCarthy will almost certainly be the hire. If they bring Rodgers back, it's because, TJ Watt wants him back and all the star players want him back because of how much praise there was. I don't think it's going to be because he is the best option. I think they can find other options, but I'm going to hold off that reservation until it's confirmed one way or another. But something that is confirmed, kind of sad here, is the Buccaneers officially hired veteran special teams coordinator Danny Smith. Now, he's been coaching for over 50 years, was with the Steelers, I believe, for 13. He is now the gum chewer Smith, an absolute animal, right? Great special teams coach, unironically. He's now moving on and heading to the Buccaneers. So that's sad. They have to replace his spot now. And he was a great special teams coach. We've seen the elevation of Ben Skronik under him and a ton of other things. Overall, their special teams have been pretty good. This is big holes to fill here, a big hole to fill for the Steelers, and they have a lot of those. So we'll keep you up to date every step of the way. Thank you guys for watching. See you later. You guys be cheers.